Detroit Den 313. We are back. Stephen Will talking at Detroit Lions football. Before we get started, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Do not forget the bell icon so you get the notifications when we go live, those giveaways are happening like today. But Steve, let's get to the main business. What are we talking about?
Well, the other day we did an episode. We're talking some draft gems. And again, I'm going to reiterate, this is just my opinion. What I consider a gem is, you put it pretty well last time. I can't remember exactly what you said. When you're drafted lower than what your talent, I can't remember what you said. So if you want to just say it.
Yeah, so a gem to us here at Detroit Den 313 is a guy who is slotted to get drafted in a certain area, but we believe his ceiling is way higher than that area, right? So he might be a day 2, day 3, or even a day 1 guy going in the back half of the first round, but we think he's a top tier guy that should be going in the front half.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah, this is all coming from an episode. I watched a YouTube video and these guys were talking gems, but they were talking like Jared. I remember Jared versus name and Dallas Turner. I was like, those aren't gems. Like, those are guys that are what they are. They're top of the draft. You know, they're the top dogs on defense, like, for a reason. I don't consider them quote unquote gems. Yeah. Gems is like, I'm finding talent at a great value. Amon-Ra St. Brown, draft gem. Yeah. 4th round talent, all pro wide receiver now, like, ended up working out. So Will, who's your guy? Who's your draft gem for the offense?
Man, so I just want to preface this with this first. My first instinct was to talk about Javon Baker, man, but I didn't do that because I wanted to give you guys somebody who is in my back pocket and somebody that I think is going to be an absolute dog. And he's a day 3 guy, right? And that is none other than Adonai Smith out of the Dan Campbell's Texas A&M. So I know that he's got a little information and a little inside information on this guy, man. But let's get some measurables. So Adonai Smith, man, 5'9", right? 190 pounds. He's a past high school Houston Offensive Player of the Year, right? So we know in Houston, Texas, they play football and they take football real seriously out there.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah. So during his time at Texas A&M, a few stats. We got 2,407 yards receiving. We got 405 yards rushing. We got 180 receptions and 23 touchdowns. And here is the kicker. Added to that, we got 1,200 yards in the kick return game and 2 touchdowns. I love this guy, man, because I think that when you're looking at a day 3 guy, a lot of times you're looking at a special teamer, man. You're looking at a guy that's going to take maybe, 2, 3, 4 years to develop. You're not even sure if he's going to be able to get there. No, Adonai Smith is going to be a day 1 contributor to whatever team he goes on, and I really hope that it's the Detroit Lions. Day 1, he's going to be able to come in and return kicks. Why is that important? Guys, we did a show on it. Maybe Steve will link it if he's feeling nice.
It's more like if I remember, not if I'm feeling nice.
Right. Well, if I'll try to remind him, but in the new kick return rules. So he's a guy that can immediately contribute there. He's a guy that does not go down easy. He won't go down with arm tackles. What's another thing? He is not just a receiver. Texas also used him as a running back, and teams are looking at him, even converting him to a running back. So I'm really think that he's the type of guy that can step in and maybe even enhance a role of somebody that we already have, like a Khalif Raymond, right? He can catch passes as a receiver. He can come in, play a little bit of running back, and he can contribute on special teams as a day 3 guy. This is a guy that I think can push the needle for us. Sometimes football games come down to one play, 3 facets of the football game: offense, defense, and special teams. If we got a game to where, hey, it comes down to one score and we got a punt or a kick return that went for a touchdown, that'll push the needle for us in a tight game, man. Steve, Adonai Smith, as a day 3 guy, would you be okay with it?
I'll be honest. This is actually the first time I'm hearing his name, so I'm going to take your word for it. I got to do a little homework once we get off here. Just kind of goes to show that sometimes we just get on here and we talk football.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't know who your guy was going to be. I didn't know until we put the picture in the lobby that I put up there. So I got to do a little homework. So I'll just ask you this question. Mm-hmm. How do you think he fits with the Lions in our wide receiver room, and how we have so many mouths to feed? We have a very potent offense that's pretty set. Where do you think he fits in? Does he get on the field right away? Oh. Is he kind of like biting for time, fighting in training camp? What do you think his path would be with the Lions?
I think that he's an immediate depth piece, right? And I think that he immediately fits in because he's a cultural guy. He's a blue collar guy. One of the things that the coaches said about him was he's the type of kid that competes on every single football play, and he shows up in the run game. What's important to us in Detroit? We want to run that football, and we expect our wide receivers to block like tight ends. We expect them to and impose their will in the run game and be fierce blockers. I think that with guys like Khalif Raymond, he's on the back end of his career. He's early 30s. He signed a contract to where we can get out of this thing if we so choose to um after this 2024 season going into that 2025 season. It won't be too big of a hit if we decided that wasn't a route that wanted to go, and if we let him complete his last 2 seasons and we got this guy that steps right into that same exact role that he does, and like I said, even enhances it a little bit because you can throw him back there at running back for a few snaps. The possibilities are truly endless, and he contributes immediately, like I said, in the special teams game. And he's a guy that you don't necessarily have to worry about when you put him back there. If he gets banged up, it's not like you're losing one of your starters. You know what I mean? So I just think that this guy is a push the needle guy on day 3, and he would fit right in from a cultural standpoint and as a piece that we could use to be able to push this needle and push this offense to another level.
Two things I like. I like that he's from Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
I like that Dan Campbell has some insight. All he's got to do is send a little text.
Yeah.
Hey man, give me a call real quick when you got a minute. And they sit there, they talk. He gets a little inside information about this kid.
Yeah.
Another thing I like is, like you said, the new kickoff rule.
Mm-hmm.
Just for people who haven't watched our video, we kind of broke down the rule. We're not going to bore you to death with more rules, but there's situations with this new kickoff. You could see a lot of skill position players out there. Yeah. You could see a play where it's kind of like a backyard football game for 20, 30 seconds. And, we might be doing some reverses, some toss backs. We really don't know what's going to happen with these kickoffs. But what I'm trying to say is there could be a scenario where you have a lot of weapons out there where you're trying to confuse the other kickoff team with what you're going to be doing. Are you going to return it? Are you going to have 5 receivers out there, some corners? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of different scenarios. So at the very least, if you're drafting a kid who's trying to make the team, that could be a way. Hey, this is your role for now. We're going to grow you into a receiver. But right now, we want you returning kicks. And if you said he could play running back, there could be an emergency situation. It's the NFL. People get hurt. Yeah, why not have another piece?
Yeah. He's just a guy, man, that you want to get the football in his hands, man. And I think that it's an opportunity to take a little bit of that stress off of our main guys. Instead of backing Amon-Ra back there and handing him the football and dealing with him getting hit by defensive linemen and linebackers, let's hand it off to Adonai Smith and let him go make plays and let him deal with that stress, man, and let guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown do what he does, man, best, and catching that ball from the receiver position.
Yeah. I'll give you my guy, and I'm a little disappointed because we have already talked about him. We kind of tipped our hand a little bit. Try to keep an ace up my sleeve, but more of a name that I think most people would know, but go do your homework on Adonai Smith. But I'm going with Jalen Polk. Yeah, I think he's a round 2 guy. That's a gem in my opinion. Anytime any player not in the first round is considered a gem to me. It's just my evaluation, my personal opinion. What I've said about Jalen Polk, I still believe that today. I think he comes to the Detroit Lions. He's familiar with his role that he was on with the Washington Huskies. Like, he doesn't have to be the guy. He just has to be a guy. He's not a guy that's going to demand to get the ball, 115 times a season. He was very productive at Washington, 69 catches, almost 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6'1", 6'2", had a pretty good combine. What I worry about with the Lions is we've seen this before. When Amon-Ra St. Brown got hurt a couple years ago against the New England Patriots, I keep saying this, our offense completely changed. We were gutted. We were completely one-dimensional. So injuries happen, and I think Jalen Polk coming in, being a receiver, same with Adonai Smith, just gives you that other little wrinkle to game plan for. And if someone gets hurt, it doesn't cripple your team as much as it did like when St. Brown got hurt 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We'll just keep the ball rolling. Just keep on moving. Hey, St. B, sit out a couple games with that rolled ankle or that tight hammy. We'll be okay without you instead of having to push him onto the field. I'm not saying that's what happened, but just gives a little insurance, a little feel good for me to draft another receiver at some point in this draft. And I would like to get one in round 2.
Yeah, I think Jalen Polk is a heck of a receiver, man. I'm high on him as well. I look at him, man, and he does everything that you need him to do on the football field. The only thing that to me he's lacking is elite vertical speed, but we have guys who have that on our team. And I don't think that we need to have a bunch of blazers out there. There's levels to football, and it's not necessarily a track meet, man. It's not necessarily always about having the fastest 40 time or fastest 100-meter dash. It's about being able to play the game that we're playing, football, right? Jalen Polk is a team guy. He reminds me of a guy out there in Chicago, Roschon Johnson. And the reason why I say that is this: Roschon Johnson was a heck of a running back. When he got his opportunity to play a little bit in Chicago, he was productive, but he's never been the guy. Right? He's never been the guy. Bijan Robinson was the guy, right? Roma Duse was the guy out there in Washington. And Jalen Polk stepped into his support role, his Robin role to Batman, and he did his thing, man. I think that that's something that he would be comfortable doing here in Detroit, knowing that these footballs and these plays are pretty much designed to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown, the majority or the lion's share. See what I did there? I did it again, Steve.
Play with words.
Yeah. So, but no, man. That's who our offense is surrounded by. Running the ball, Amon-Ra St. Brown first, and then everybody else is a supporting cast, and we need people to be okay with their roles. He is a guy that would be okay with that, and I think contract-wise, that can help us out moving forward too. Guys, the more we get these sexy pick, these guys that are phenomenal, when it comes contract time, they're going to get paid like they're the sexy pick and they're the contract guys. So it's a lot easier if you form this team with guys that can play their roles phenomenally. When it comes contract time, they know that they're a role player. So Jalen Polk is a guy that I love, man, and I agree with you. Heck of a football player.
Here's what's kind of concerning me with the Detroit Lions. And I think it's not like, oh my God, the ship is sinking, but we lost Josh Reynolds. We lost Brock Wright. That's 54 receptions we got to make up for somehow. I think we need another receiver. I think we need one earlier rather than later. I'm looking at somewhere in the first 3 rounds. So I think Jalen Polk, Josh Reynolds last year had 60 catches or 40 catches, and Brock Wright had 14. So that's 54 catches. That's 54 passing attempts that we need to find someone to get open. It's not a pressing need. I'm just looking at numbers. And I think you throw Jalen Polk in there as a rookie, I think he can get 54 catches. Yeah. I think he's got that kind of skill. And if he doesn't get 54, we've talked about how we need to see Jahmyr Gibbs more in the passing game, and we think that's coming. Maybe it's another pass or two to here to Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like I said, the ship isn't sinking, but we do have a little bit of production we got to make up for with losing 2 guys on offense, and we didn't really sign any offensive playmakers. We just kind of tidied up that old line and made it even more dominant. So I'm just looking for Brad to kind of find a way to replace that production that we're losing from Brock Wright and Josh Reynolds. And I think either one of these 2 guys will fit that need.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'd be happy to see either one of these guys, man, on this Detroit team. We definitely need a guy to step into that X role, whether it's like we've talked about before, whether it's somebody that we already have or somebody we select in this draft. I'm a strong believer in it's probably going to be either Adonai or Xavier Liggett, or we're going to be looking at somebody probably in the back half of this draft. And the great thing about it is this, man, there are 20 wide receivers easily that I like in this draft, man, whether it's on the back end of this thing, and we're talking about some of these guys like Javon Baker, or the front end of this thing where we're talking about the Adonai Mitchells and the Xavier Liggett's. There's a lot of receivers that'll be there 29 and on that we can go ahead and go grab. So I don't even think that it's a big deal, pressure situation. We'll get somebody and we'll be just fine.
Yeah. So guys, like I said, we're doing a little offensive gems today. We did an episode on defensive gems. We're just throwing out a name or two. We might do some more later on. There's a bunch of guys. There's more than one gem in a draft. I'll just say that. So leave some comments down below. Let us know who you want us to talk about, or a name that maybe isn't really on a lot of people's radar. Leave it in the comments. Hit that like button. If you're new here, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.